Welcome into this segment of Behind the Pen presented by mostvaluablepodcast.com. If you want to listen to the full podcast, go to blogtalkradio.com/mostvaluablepodcast. Also, we're on iTunes, so check us out there as well. Thank you all for listening as always, and enjoy the show. Now it's time to talk about Ricky Widmer. Jay Cutler has to happen. I'm a Jay Cutler supporter.
Yes, I know.
I don't care about what any of you have to say to argue me, because I will come at all of you until the sun goes down each and every day of the week, and I've said that before, and I'll say it again. But today, well, for this segment, we are talking Jay Cutler because he's in the news, and I can't help myself, Ricky. When he's in the news, I'm in the news because I'm talking Jay Cutler.
You like your Jay Cuddy talk. It's okay.
I very much enjoy talking Jay. And for this segment, by the way, if you're on YouTube, it's up. We got this video for you. Hey, Behind the Pen has a video. Awesome.
They do.
Awesome. This is our Bears segment. Bears fans, drop a like down below and a comment if you could. If you're not subscribed, do so. We're going to entertain you more so if you do, because we have a ton of content. Blog Talk Radio, continue on listening. Thank you guys so much for checking in. But Jay Cutler in the news, rumored to be shopped by the Chicago Bears. And I guess this is just a front. I mean, we already knew that that's the Bears' plan. But I mean, they just made it public now. On. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much had that set in stone that Jay Cutler wasn't coming back because it didn't make sense for Jay. It wasn't because Jay Cutler's not a good quarterback, because he is.
The fit's not right.
The
fit is just not right.
In the transition process that is the Chicago Bears, now in year 3 of the regime for John Fox and company, we're going to see what they got, and a big area of concern is within that quarterback position. It's not going to be with Cutler, and if it is with Cutler, I just don't know. I don't know what else to say, but most likely he's gone. So I want to talk about this. What is next for Jay Cutler? Because he said, I mean, in the report that, well, I might retire. What are your thoughts?
Well, when I heard I might retire, my mind snapped back to, what year was that?
Well,
to 2010.
No, says that all the time.
No, but it snapped back to 2010 because this is, to me, a similar situation that happened with Carson Palmer and the Bengals.
Gotcha.
Carson Palmer and the Bengals, it was the same thing. Bengals were going to be done with them. You know what? We're going to trade them. Nobody wanted to trade for Carson Palmer because they're like, fuck it, you're just going to cut him anyways. So why would we give up stuff? We'll just wait for you to cut him and then pick him up. That's where the Bears are here. You can try trading him, but I think everyone's going to go, you know what? We'll wait for you to cut him. And
I think, yeah, well, that's sure. Because what are you going to get realistically for Jay Cutler at this point?
Why would I give something up when I can just wait for you to cut him and then pay him?
I mean, people would make the joke, a bag of base or a bag of footballs and 3 cents. All right, shut up.
No,
right.
the money ball. No. Pay for my Coke for a year.
You're right. Yeah. fill
my pop machine.
Yeah. No, but for realistically, Cutler's worth what? A 6th-round pick at this point, which is nothing.
Maybe even a 5th.
And the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks and something else, a future 3rd or whatever it was, and you know, it didn't really work out in Chicago. He had an opportunity in his initial seasons. 2009 was a disaster. 2010 went to the NFC Championship game, and I think that's when the Cutler hate really took off. It was because of guys like Michael Wilbon calling him out, Maurice Jones-Drew calling him out. Of course, Stephen A. Smith has been vocal. Guys, if you listen to them, that's you're brainwashed. You're brainwashed. You have to have a realistic take that is not those media airheads.
You know what
you have to just get your own.
You know what my take is of Jay Cutler and why it didn't work here in Chicago? Had nothing to do with his skill, had nothing to do with the team that the Bears put around him. I know that those are 2 big things. He's a good quarterback talent-wise. I'm not saying he's the best, but you know, if he's my starter, I'd rather have him than
a handful of guys in the league.
Blake Bortles right now.
Probably 8. Well, he's probably 18. Around there, I would say.
I'm not gonna put a number on it unless I actually go through.
Sure.
He's definitely outside of my top 15. But
yeah, now he is.
The thing that I think of with Jay Cutler and why it didn't work in Chicago is the kind of attitude that this city is. A team that we just talked about in the Chicago Bulls. You had nice things to say about Taj. I had nice things to say about Taj. Everyone has nice things to say about Taj Gibson because he's a lunch pail guy is what I call him. He's going to come to work. He's going to do his job. He's going to go home. He's going to come to work, do his job. And with Jay Cutler, you could say it was the attitude, and people have said that, but it's that attitude that to the fan it
comes off terribly.
Didn't seem like the lunch pail guy in this city that – because Chicago's that city where it's like, we're going to hit the ground, we're going to do the dirty work.
And really, the Bears haven't had a legitimate quarterback with talent. And we're talking about a legitimate – Kyle Orton does not count. Rex Grossman does
But
not
Rex
count.
Grossman got to a Super Bowl.
Because of that defense. We're not talking about that. Now, by the way, check out that random-ass segment I had about the 06, 07 Bears, whatever. No, but I'm looking at this Jay Cutler situation. When you look back, when he came in to the Bears situation in 09, his first season when he got traded for, he could have had this city in the palm of his hands. He just didn't care. He didn't care at all. And he made that clear. And you know what? It wasn't until really he got together with Christian Cavalieri, and this is obvious, his persona changed. He would go into press conferences. Jay Cutler is such an interesting fella. He would go into press conferences early in his career in Chicago with sweatpants, a long sleeve athletic shirt, a beanie, and he'd just be like, And then he would answer the questions, but he would just be super disinterested. And that continued until really, I'd say like 2012, 2013, he really started to mature, and that process was very relevant. You could see that. You can see that. It was tangible. He would dress up, whatever. He would always say, now, in Cutler's defense, he had a lot of scrutiny, especially during the Mark Trestman era. But during his press conferences, he was under so much heat. Oh, Jay, what's going to happen? Why'd you get benched for whatever his name, Josh McCown? He would always say the right things. And that was something that Jay Cutler was not, and a cancer in the locker room. He was a good guy, kept to himself, but the thing is, he was not a leader. And if you look at a quarterback position,
they're the
gotta
leader.
be. You have to be.
They're the lead, and that's the one thing. My biggest criticism of Jay Cutler is that he's not a leader. And I know that so many Cutler supporters I've talked to,
he's not.
He doesn't have to be a leader. No, you're the quarterback. You have to be the leader. That's like saying, yeah, Tom Brady, you don't need to be a leader. You got to be the leader if you're
as a quarterback,
the quarterback of a football team.
And people who have played football will relate to this. If you're on that team, on that offense, a part of the 11 guys, and you look at your quarterback, you want to see it in his eyes that he's got all of you.
And you got to have confidence in him.
In the huddle. And you got to have faith in him. A lot of guys really didn't. They said, "Uh-oh, what's going to happen? Is he going to fall off his back foot and throw a pick?" You know what happens a lot of the time under Cutler. So when you're in that huddle, you're looking at the quarterback's eyes. Did he have it? Some days he did because it showed that he was really into games at points. Other times he just didn't give a damn. I remember that Bucs game this last season. Holy crap. One of the worst performances I've ever seen. And that was coming off the win against Minnesota, if I'm not mistaken, where he had a great game. Well, we're talking today, Jay Cutler, because he is in the news suggesting that, well, he could be traded. We assume that the Bears are just going to let him go unless they decide to keep him and get a cap hit of $16 million, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Ricky?
Somewhere around there.
I think that's like $16 million is what he's going to be owed this year. But it's a play-to-pay situation for Cutler in which all this money is not guaranteed. His $127 million 7-year contract, $54 million was guaranteed in the first 3 seasons. That's done with. So now they have to make a decision. Are they going to move forward without Jay? Pretty much a formality at this point.
The thing is with the Bears, it all comes down to, of course, you talked about it a few weeks ago in the Jimmy Garoppolo. It's either trade for Garoppolo or draft a quarterback. That's where the Bears are right now. It's Jay is not in the future plans. But there are some teams out there that need quarterbacks. And there are teams that could use him, even if it's like, because obviously when Mark and I had a discussion this week about Tony Romo, where he'll be playing next season, you bring up Denver, you bring up Houston, you bring up Arizona, you bring up all those teams. Those 3, more importantly.
Very relevant to Cutler.
We brought up the Bears too, just because there have been some rumors about the Bears and Tony Romo, mainly because of the Eastern Illinois connection. But there are some teams like
other reasons,
the 49ers could, if depending on, let's say they take a quarterback at number 2, he's the guy. But what if they don't? They take a guy later. They need a veteran to step in.
Well, even so, if they take a number 2 quarterback number 2, they could bring in Cutler to just kind of fill the role until he's ready to play.
There are also teams that, let's be honest, there are also teams that could offer him a contract to be their backup. The Redskins, the Jaguars, the Dolphins. You don't think Adam Gase would say, hey, you know what? I saw what happened with Tannehill. Tannehill's our starter, but if he gets injured again, I'd rather have Jay, who I've worked with, than Matt Moore.
Right.
So there are even teams, the Steelers could bring him in as a backup. The Patriots could bring him in as a backup if they trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, they've got Jacoby Brissett, so they're not going to look for Jay Cutler. To me, the big ones are Jacksonville, Miami, and the one team that I forgot that I mentioned before that for the backups.
Yeah.
But really the interesting one to me is the Niners.
Yeah. And
because
I think
Matt Schaub looks like he's going to be the guy.
Bad.
But I'd rather have Jay Cutler than Matt Schaub.
Matt Schaub's bad. The 49ers were linked to Cutler in a recent report, I guess a couple of weeks ago. But again, you're not going to give up much to acquire Jay Cutler in this situation. He is what he is at this point. Let's be honest. He is what he is. 51-51 career quarterback with the Chicago Bears as a starter. Obviously, he had struggles throwing interceptions. His main knock as a player is the inconsistency of his skill set, because we know he has elite skills. Sometimes, obviously, we talk all the time about a strong arm, but his accuracy sometimes goes unnoticed. He's great in the pocket, great feet in the pocket, eludes pressure very well, but he just can't handle the football in certain situations. He'll make ill-advised throws into double coverage a lot of the time. So that's what makes him from elite to mediocre / below average.
He's got two routes that his career could take right now. There's a fork in the road in front of Jay Cutler. To the left, there is the same kind of road that Carson Palmer had. However, Carson Palmer to me is a lot better of a quarterback than Jay Cutler. He can go to a team, start with a shitty team, play with them for a few years, then wait for a team like Arizona with Carson Palmer, a team that, man, we just need a quarterback. Oh, let's go and grab Jay Cutler to try to make a run. Or he could become a journeyman.
Well, boy, I think he would retire before he became a journeyman.
He is now either going to become a journeyman or follow a similar path to try to be like Carson Palmer 2.0.
It would be so Jay Cutler if he just said, I'm done. I quit. At 34 years old, why not?
Why not?
He made $54 million guaranteed, and
I'm
prior
sure
to that,
there's a lot of people out there that'd be happy. I'd be happy. I wouldn't have to talk about him anymore.
Beating playing in Chicago for 8 years. Like, I'm talking on the ground a lot of the time, mainly because in the first initially 4 years of that run in Chicago, he had no offensive line, no protection whatsoever, and no help. But hey, when you look at the teams interested, Arizona, I felt like was the perfect match, but they're committed to Palmer for whatever reason. I think he's just,
I think if there's no team that's going to go out there and get him as a starter, I think Miami is a perfect fit, even to be a backup.
Link, sure.
Well, even to be just a backup.
Sure. And maybe he beats out Tannehill. I don't know. Probably not.
I don't think so.
I'm just
I think Miami would revolt if that happened.
You think so? But no, I mean, he obviously has a great relationship with Gase, and that's a fair link. Sure, we're only speculating.
Tannehill has the injury.
Of course, and the injury history too, and Cutler does as well. I mean, he's hurt almost all the time.
Yeah, but who would you rather have as your backup?
Right,
Matt Moore or Jay Cutler?
we agree.
Yeah.
We agree. Another team, the New York Jets. The New York Jets have been linked, and right now, like
that would be like Palmer going to Oakland.
Yeah, but their situation, they don't have much. Geno Smith bad. It just, I don't know if they're going to commit.
Well, it's interesting if the
Jets, Fitz is done, right?
If the Jets brought in Jay Cutler, then because I think of their draft when I think of that move, and the reason why is they've really got three things they could do at the sixth pick that they got. Take a quarterback. They can take Leonard Fournette because he'll still be around that time. Mocks are saying
Powell and Leonard Fournette. Oh my gosh, that's pretty good.
Or they can go ahead and take defense. Well, if they come and get Jay Cutler, they don't have to take a quarterback that high. They could go defense, but if they get Jay Cutler that high, I'm taking Leonard Fournette. I'm just stacking up that offense.
That's fair. And then you look at the situations, I think the Jets are a pretty solid fit for Cutler. I think he can win with a team that has pieces around him. Now, I'm not saying anything crazy here, but I think he's a quality quarterback that can win games in the NFL if he has the appropriate personnel.
I want to ask you this, and this is kind of I'm going to put you into the mindset of Bill O'Brien in Houston.
Yeah.
Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Osweiler or Cutler?
Cutler, 100%. Cutler starts in that playoff game against New England. It's a different thing. I think
they still don't win.
Maybe not. But
Tom Brady still wins the Super Bowl. Let's be honest.
I think maybe Houston's a better seed. I think they get more production out of they're definitely not 32.
Well, they beat Jacoby Brissett. Is that what you're saying? They beat him week 3.
Well,
with Cutler, they beat him instead of Brock losing.
I'm not looking at specific games. I'm talking in totality. The Houston Texans would probably have won more games with Cutler as the quarterback than Brock Osweiler. I tweeted something out, sort of joking, also sort of serious. If Cutler was on this Houston Texans team this season that got bounced in the first round, they would win the Super Bowl.
All Jay Cutler would have to be on that, if he played for Houston this upcoming season, he would have to be just as good as Rex Grossman was for that 06 Bears team.
Oh, well, yeah, based on their defense
Their
being really good.
defense is almost exactly the same.
That's the thing, too, and they have weapons on offense.
They had the #1 scoring defense this past year.
I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller. I mean, that's solid. Plus, their tight ends
Lamar Miller had a big year last year.
Their running game, that's what I'm saying. Cutler has talent. And I think the Houston Texans are the perfect fit for Cutler. However, I feel like Tony Romo's an even better fit for them.
Well, not just that. Romo is a better fit.
Right.
Me and Mark talked about that. But the one thing I mentioned to you, I didn't mention this on that podcast, but I mentioned it to you before we recorded, was there's just something about me where it's like, yeah, we talk about Romo going here and there. I could see Dallas just being like, no, we'll keep him.
Yeah.
We'll keep him as a backup. Well, if that happens, the Texans have a decision to make. Do we roll the dice with Brock the Cock again? Cock-a-doodle-doo, by the way. Or do we go out there and either trade or sign, because we don't know what's going to happen in the long run with Jay, and we run with Jay? I think Jay would be a better pick than Osweiler, I will say that. But
have to be
on that Texan team, like I said, all he's got to do is be just as good as Rex Grossman was for the Bears.
I think that's a great fit. The top two
all
fits.
He's got to do.
Houston, well, I thought Arizona was the perfect fit until they committed, and they even said they're not interested.
And really with Houston,
I really like that Houston.
Let's say they don't get Romo. I would be tempted to take Cutler only because you look at the division. The Jaguars are a young team with potential. Yeah, they got Coughlin coming in to kind of right the ship, but nothing's going to be done this year to make them a contender. You look at Tennessee. They're a good upcoming team.
Getting there.
But is Marcus Mariota going to be ready for game 1 because he broke his leg so late into the season?
Yes.
So how is that injury going to heal? If he's ready week 1, the Titans are my second best team, first or second best team in that division.
Because Colts have so many problems.
And then really,
offensively.
The Colts,
and
it's one of those things where, yeah, they got a new GM, they got a new direction.
They got
now.
a lot of holes to fill.
It's one of those things where I would only say that the Colts have a chance to rival the Texans because of Andrew Luck. And that's why with them I say go.
Sure.
That's why I say load up that defense, because Andrew Luck undefeated when that opposing team scores 19 or less points.
You need people to block for him first.
But if they got Cutler, and that's Houston, they could really do some damage in that division. And all you got to do, win the division, get in the playoffs, and that's anybody's game.
I agree with you. And I think that is a good point to end this Cutler conversation, because we can go on and on. I didn't really talk about his skill set so much, but yeah, go ahead.
Throw one more team out there. See what you think. Cleveland.
I hate it. I hate that Cleveland.
Do you roll with Cody? Let's say they don't get Garoppolo. Do you roll with a Cody Kessler, or do you say, you know what, let's bring in a Jay Cutler so that we have a veteran here?
Don't they want like RG3 or something? Like, aren't they going to run with him? Like,
do you really think? Do you think RG3's got a full season left in him?
Probably
I don't.
Probably not. But I think if Cutler
they signed him or traded for him, I can't remember what they did, and he broke his baby.
First game.
His leg again.
First game. Yeah, I know. If Cutler signs with, or if Cleveland's interested in Cutler, and that's the only team interested in Cutler, I think he quits. I think he retires.
You got to throw it out there because they're always looking for a quarterback.
Yeah, no, but I think the best fit would be Houston. The Jets would work as well. Guys, Cutler is not as bad as you. In my final thoughts on this conversation, he's not great. He's nothing. He is what he is. He's a victim of circumstance. That is for sure in Chicago.
Well, and it's one of those things, like you said. Yeah, he matured, but it's one of those things where maybe it came too late. And my big thing with why it didn't work here in Chicago. The one thing why it didn't work here in Chicago, he didn't have the right attitude for the city.
Well, he didn't have the right personnel.
He did not have the right attitude for the city.
6 offensive coordinators in 8 years, 3 different head coaches, 3 different GMs. How are you going to win with that inconsistency? Aaron Kromer, Mike Martz? You kidding me? Mike Tice?
All we want here in Chicago is that you're going to come to work each day, do your job, work to make the team better.
Adam Gase? Adam Gase was the only good one. Bad. Cutler didn't have a chance.
Remember how optimistic Bears fans were with Dowell Loggins before the season?
Optimistic, I think.
Cutler will be fine. Dowell will be fine.
What a disaster. No, but I look at that season prior. That's 2015, and how successful Cutler was with nobody around him. That's the kind of quarterback he can be if he's coached properly. He has somewhat of a decent talent around him. Hey, he can make some noise.
Miami couldn't try some.
Miami possibly. I'm telling you, Cutler is not as bad as people make him out to be. And you got to appreciate his skill set, even though he does lack a lot of consistency in his game. But that'll do it for the Cutler conversation. Ricky, thank you so much for not pissing me off, because I know your opinion of Cutler sometimes gets me rubbed the wrong way. Absolutely. As a Cutler fan, I get it. I'll defend him. I'll continue to do so. Thank you guys for sticking around for this segment of Behind the Pen. If you want more Most Valuable Podcast content, click on the video up above, because I don't know why you wouldn't want to keep listening to our voices every day. But again, guys, thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate you.